On this channel, we have been promoting Linux as a viable and dependable alternative to proprietary operating systems for some time. Our goal is to prove that Linux is and can be a fully fledged desktop operating system for different tasks, be it office work, video or audio production, or even gaming. So we have been trying to promote Linux distributions that offer stability, consistency, and a level of polish as close as possible to paid and closed source counterparts. And at the same time, we generally do not review niche or Linux-based OSs for advanced Linux users. In the last several months, we have extensively used several major Linux distributions, such as Ubuntu, Linux Mint, Fedora, Manjaro, Zarin OS, Linux Lite, and so on. In this video, we are going to present to you what we generally like and don't like about some of these operating systems. And of course, all the distributions that we talk about here are grouped in no particular order. So, stay tuned. Ubuntu is maybe the most popular Linux-based operating system aimed at the general populace, or non-technical computer users if you like. In our experience, Ubuntu has been working for us with no issues for years now, and it generally just automatically settles down to our hardware. Its huge advantage is that you'll generally find solutions for all problems you might have in Ubuntu, simply because it's the most popular Linux distribution and the easiest one to find help for. Some users have been complaining recently about Ubuntu's snap packaging format in terms of its proprietary base and the fact that snap apps are slow to start in general, while general users do not care that much about the proprietary issue. Otherwise, proprietary and closed source operating systems would not be the most used ones in the world. We did have issues concerning the slow start of the snap apps. It's been improved recently, and it is making steady progress, but the snap apps are still slower than the .deb ones in our experience. And finally, would we recommend it to a completely new Linux user? Of course, hands down. Fedora is another very popular Linux distribution. It's designed to work out of the box, and although Linux users generally like to tinker around with things, Fedora, with its default GNOME desktop environment, obviously likes to be treated as it is. It's a modern and Android-like desktop environment, as we have pointed out multiple times in our previous videos. But if you don't like it like that, then Fedora is not for you. It's a polished and coherent Linux distribution, following the latest technologies and is updated regularly. It is a little bit harder to find solutions for any issues you might have with it, compared to Ubuntu in our experience, but certainly it doesn't mean that these solutions are impossible to be found. If you need some features of the Windows operating system in Fedora, like proprietary fonts for instance, it's a little bit heavier to find and install them if you are a new Linux user. And finally, would we recommend Fedora to a totally new Linux user? Well, no. You really need to have some previous Linux knowledge if you want to use Fedora. It doesn't mean it's not as good as Ubuntu. It simply means that Fedora is targeted at a different user base. Manjaro is another Linux distribution that we have used both on real hardware and virtual machines. It's a so-called rolling release distribution, meaning that its base and its apps are regularly updated. And if you like living on the edge, then Manjaro is for you. Of course, it's not as rolling as Arch Linux, which is Manjaro's base, but still, it offers newer packages and a newer base compared to some other Linux-based operating systems. What we like about Manjaro is the fact that users choose which software platform they will use, and nothing is imposed, so to say, out of the box. Although being a rolling release Linux distribution, Manjaro is generally a stable and reliable operating system in our opinion. It's well designed and beautiful, and it offers many customization options out of the box, which is very important for an average Linux user. In our tests, 9 out of 10 times we didn't have any issues with Manjaro updates, contrary to what we could find on the internet about that issue. Still, we did have a situation in which an update completely borked our system. So, would we recommend Manjaro to a completely new Linux user? Not really. As with Fedora, a user really needs to have some previous Linux experience for using Manjaro. It's definitely making progress in that direction, but it's still not there in our view. Zarin OS has been our favorite Linux-based operating system for some time now. If you are looking for an almost perfect Linux distribution for beginners, then Zarin OS is the one. It simply works out of the box and gets out of your way. It offers a familiar layout, and still, if you don't like it, you can easily change it with a click or two. Some advanced users have criticized it for being just another Ubuntu-based system with nice customization above it. But it's not like that in reality. Zarin OS offers even more software compared to Ubuntu, and it makes it easier for new users to install Windows apps should they still need them. If your focus is on writing texts and spreadsheets, editing audio or video, editing pictures or photos, and not being distracted by the whims of your operating system along the way, then look no further than Zarin OS. We have really had a hard time finding not so nice things when it comes to this operating system. Maybe it's been somewhat slow in following the desktop environment base, because it's still based on an old version of GNOME desktop environment as of the time of recording this video. But the Zarin team has regularly added features from newer versions of GNOME and incorporated them in the system. And finally, would we recommend the Zarin OS to new Linux users? Yes, and we believe at the moment it's one of the most stable and dependable operating systems out there. Linux Mint is one of the most popular Linux distributions around. It has become a synonym for stability and dependability. It offers an Ubuntu long-term support base and in-house built Cinnamon desktop environment, although you can install lightweight Mate and XFCE environments as well. Linux Mint also adds its own tools for maintaining the system, and it is generally user-friendly, and all the issues you might have can also be easily resolved because all the Ubuntu answers apply to Linux Mint most of the time. For many people, Linux Mint was a gateway to the Linux world. Some users raise the issue of its looks, saying that it's outdated. We believe that it's not an issue at all. First of all, the Linux Mint default appearance is a result of the Linux Mint community's wishes. They want to have a stable, familiar, slow-changing operating system. And second of all, if you find the Linux Mint appearance an issue, then invest some of your time and change it, because it's very easy and you can find some tutorials on this channel. So, would we recommend Linux Mint to new Linux users? Yes, and without a second thought. Kubuntu is another Linux-based operating system that offers a familiar desktop experience out of the box. Everything is right where you expect it to be, and with a rock-stable Ubuntu base, Kubuntu has also been a gateway to the Linux world for many users. It's the general conception that Kubuntu is a Linux distribution with that Windows 10 feeling. It features the KDE Plasma desktop environment, which makes it look eye-pleasing. Kubuntu offers a vanilla KDE experience more or less, which means that if you don't like the defaults, you can change any aspect of it. To a detail, literally. No matter if it is about a general desktop theme, adding widgets or functionality. Anything can be changed and customized. While GNOME-based distributions are sometimes hard to customize, quite the opposite is true for KDE-based distros. And for some people that is actually a basic disadvantage of Kubuntu, because they argue a user can get lost in the maze of its customization. They say GNOME-based Linux operating systems offer simple user interfaces, while KDE ones are complicated with their countless menus and options. In our opinion, everything boils down to a personal preference. You like GNOME or KDE, and what suits your workflow. If you ask us, yes, we would recommend Kubuntu to new Linux users. Maybe they will need some time to get familiarized with things, but it's not a big deal at all, and you can easily find help online should you need it. So, if you are an experienced Linux user, tell us what you would recommend to newbies. What was your first Linux distro that you learned your way around with? Tell us all in the comment section down below. Thanks for watching the video. Please do not forget to give us a like, share it and subscribe to our channel. See you next time.